First of all, very much welcome to this AmCham webinar with Aurelie and I from MindForest, and we will talk about how to learn about change to learn to change. And as you know, Aurelie just mentioned before, this webinar will be recorded. So if someone has something to say against that, then please do so now. Otherwise, we will continue with the recording. And just to introduce ourselves, really a warm welcome from our side. I am Lena Peterson and I am a senior consultant at MindForest. And I'm here together with Aurelie Poncelet, my colleague, who is also a senior consultant at MindForest, but also the project manager of the e-learning platform ChangeX. But it's great to see so many people having their camera on. Please continue to do that because we will make it as interactive as possible. To get ourselves started, what is MindForest about? MindForest is a change management company. We have over 20 years of experience. And here we have been doing more than 500 projects in change management in Luxembourg and the greater region. What we do is that we focus on the human side of change, and we particularly work with our clients in strategy activation, in employee engagement and the empowerment of employees. Then we work on digitalization and process optimization projects. And we really help also to make a cultural change and anchoring it for a lasting change. We are different in the way that we are a very multidisciplinary team, and we like to work very differently, very creatively. We like to communicate in a very visual way in order to support the projects and help the clients reach their goals. Today, we will be discussing change, why it is so important, and also the human factor that is often overseen in change management projects, and why it is such a crucial role. So then further, we will be discussing the learnability of change and on first hand, have the experience from Aurelie Poncelet in how to make this possible. So let's get started with the reasons for change. If we look at those two pictures, they're quite telling. You can see in the first picture, two men, they are working hard, super busy. They do not have time to consider other solutions. They are by that not being effective. They are ruining their processes. They are working harder than they should and not considering having normal round wheels. The other picture is showing a company that unfortunately missed the train in innovation, and that is the failing of Kodak because they missed the digital shift and are now bankrupt because of it. For a long time, they were leaders in their industry, but however, the management didn't see that technology was changing. They were not jumping on the wagon of disruptive innovation with the digital camera. This despite one of the Kodak engineers actually having developed it. And this made them then be eaten up by competition and now disappearing from the market. So this is really one saying, two saying pictures why it's super important to change. So what might actually drive us to change? Change is necessary when there is a gap between the current state and the desired future state of an organization. It can be due to a change in regulations and standards. This can be due to, for example, the GDPR regulations that we have all experienced firsthand, or if someone is thinking about implementing ISO standards or accreditation or something like that. And it can also be due to pressure from the market. So it can be new market trends, it can be changing consumer habits. I think we've all met this firsthand with the pandemic, where we don't have to reorientate ourselves, we have to review our strategy, and this requires employees to change and reposition themselves. Then it can also be changed due to technology. And this can be implementation of new programs and tools such as an ERP or CRM, which again require the employees and other stakeholders to adapt where training is needed. all of them have one thing in common, and that is the cultural aspect, where the change really plays an important role, and you always have to make sure that there's a cultural fit when you go through a change. And even in move projects or mergers and acquisitions, this comes even more to play, because there you're seeing different value systems coming together, and interaction that is different, and they need to find a common ground. So what is change really about? Change is an action. It is when we act, we modify something, we pass from one state to another. And it is super important to understand that we have to see change as part of the context, where there can be external as well as internal influences on a situation. Further, change is expressed in action. So it's expressed in change of behavior, the ways of working, how we learn. And then we have also change as a strong emotional dimension, because we always, when there's change, there's reactions of joy, of resilience, of fear that can shine through. And depending on where people are in this change curve of feelings, then we need to react differently. If we look at the different types of change that exist, we have Paul Václavic. He's an Austrian psychologist, and he differentiates two different types. He differentiates between superficial and profound change. So what does this mean? It means that when you have the superficial change, it is just that you're adopting, for example, a new strategy, but without questioning what you're actually doing, the way you're thinking or acting. So it is that you're reinforcing something that exists, and we just do more of it, but for change. And then there is the more deeper, profound change type, which is where you really think about what you're changing, the way you are acting, and so on, and you're adopting new behaviors, new ways of doing. If we want to illustrate it with an example, take the example of a university that is experiencing a huge number of students arriving, many more than before. And here, if you have to change type 1, where it's superficial, the university would just go and say, okay, we have more students this year. We will just get larger rooms. We will find lecture rooms that allow all the students to be there. And so there's no way, there's no change in the way that people are working and how the university operates. However, if they went and said, okay, we want to make a profound change, this would mean that they would create the possibility, for example, to do e-learning, to be online and in class courses in order to meet the demand of the market. And this way they could have it also, if it's a recurring, they can scale it and so on. So this is really where the university goes and asks themselves what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they could do it better. So type 2 is really the lasting change. It can provide lasting solutions and is therefore also much more impactful. But let's look at examples of different changes. And here I would like you all to become a bit active, because there are many different changes, like mergers, like the certifications, or if there's a move or relocation, new systems to be put in place and so on. But which ones have you experienced? Maybe you can have mention a recent example. You can either unmute yourself briefly, or you can write it in the chat for us. Does anyone have examples? It could even be now with the home working in the pandemic. Jane, you're raising your hand, please go ahead.
I just wanted to share that Tony said that she experienced move or relocation.
Excellent.
And Stefan has said that he's had a new director since February. And Jane, other Jane, I don't talk to myself, she mentioned home working.
Yeah, absolutely. There are all three perfect examples of change that has a huge impact on the individual. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll just say the one with the pandemic, I think that has really made a huge change for all of us, where we are still adapting. Now some people are going back to the office, some people are discussing how many days they can be at home, some people are discussing whether to have a new workplace strategy, whether they're going to implement flex desk, or if they're going to have whatever change, maybe resizing or thinking about moving companies. That can be many things. So as you can see, there's really a lot of change going on. A move can create a lot of uncertainty, or a new CEO in place, or a boss somewhere in the system that does things differently or wants to set a mark on the organization. So this is all things that can create a bit of fear or uncertainty, where we have to react as humans. Now, to make it again a bit interactive, there is a small poll question for you. In your organization, how much change are you currently facing? Aurélie, could you maybe launch the poll for us? There are several answers, and you can choose one answer.
So no change, 1 change, 2 to 3 changes, 4 to 5 changes, and more than 5.
So please do give it your answer. It's anonymous, so don't fear anything.
So far we have 19.
19, so we have a few more people to go.
Yeah. We should 27. So.
Okay, yeah, that might then be us included in the 29 in total.
Yeah, probably. So we have 22 answers. So 1 person respond no change, 3 1 change, 10 2 to 3 changes, 11 no. 2 people 4 to 5, and 6 more than 5 changes. So.
Wow. Yeah, so you can always, I mean, you can see there's 1 person who had no change at all. I mean, that's amazing. But mainly people are really having at least 2 or 3 changes going on, and even 6 people having more than 5 different changes going on at the same time. So you can, I mean, I can imagine the insecurity that can come potentially if it's not managed the right way. In a survey from 2016, it was indicated that more than 9 out of 10 people have experienced at least 1 change in the last 3 years. And I mean, 2016, that was before the pandemic. So I think this is also maybe why a lot of people today are experiencing even 2 to 3 or even more than 5 changes at a time. So what does this actually mean? It means that change is permanent. And there is really a traditional opposition between the status quo and change. And we are more and more aware of the fact that change is a daily reality in people's life. And it has really become something where we need to continue to develop ourselves. We need to learn from our mistakes. We need to question ourselves and really have this capacity to change and to react to it in a human way. And this is also why change is very human. Now, when you have experienced this change in your organization, we have another poll question for you, and that is, what would you say about this change that you have experienced? Do you think that it was necessary or well managed, or what could have been done better? Maybe, Aurélie, if you can launch the second poll question for us.
C'est bon, c'est lancé.
Super. And just let you answer the question. Maybe it could have been had more communication, more training around the change, more involvement of people. How are we doing? People answering?
Yes. We have so far 17 answers.
we'll let you answer.
In a few seconds.
How are we doing?
21. So I will stop the vote and share the results. So 9 people said it was necessary, that it was well managed. So 2 on 21, it's 10%. That it could have been done better for 6 people, 3 people that it could have been communicated better, and 1 that you could have received more training.
More training, okay. It seems that people have been a bit involved in it, so that's at least a good point. Great, well, let's see what change management could have done and helped. So what is change management? How could that have helped in different situations? Change management is really a holistic and structured approach. It is really helping and supporting individuals in organizations to reach their goals, to go from one state to another. And it's aligning people and processes and the structures to the culture and the strategy of an organization. And if we look at change projects in companies, it's, I think you have all mentioned a bit of this need for to be managed better. And this is really what also comes out, that almost 80% feel that it was necessary. However, that 50% say that it could have been handled in a different way. And of this, there's a lot of people that really the majority, or more than half of the people, they say the communication was more important, that they would need more time to integrate, get more training, and also that fears and suggestions were not really taken into account by management and the people leading the change projects. So this opportunity to express and be part of it is very important and something to consider. Now, if we look at the consequences of not listening to the people and not taking people into account, it is very profound, because if you look at the employee perspective, then there can be an increased sense of injustice, and people, they lose trust in the organization and in management if there is no involvement. They lose motivation and they then become dissatisfied with the job, which can of course lead to employees stopping to be loyal to the employer and the company. It also in projects just means that people, they delay deliveries because they're not working as hard, or they have there's additional work that has to be done, or budgets are not respected, and deadlines and the timing can just be completely disrespected or not met at all. Organizations from that really suffer, because then there will be absenteeism. That is an increase of about 2.3 times higher than normally. Presenteeism, that is also an issue, that if it's not managed well, then this rate can actually go up 4 times. Productivity can actually drop by about 40%, and turnover, that's almost 30% higher if you do not take care of the employees and think about the human factor in change projects. And this, of course, is then a risk of losing employees, and key employees especially. And all this just leads to a quality decrease. And this has, of course, impact on the products and services and customers, suppliers, everything in the supply chain. So it is really, there is a high risk that it will not be a success at all. And also, this is also why almost 70% of restructurings actually never reach their objectives due to all these hidden issues. So if we look at the effectiveness of change management, it is really clear. A study has shown that if you work consistently and you really implement the methods and theories of change management, then projects become much more efficient. And it's proven that it can be more than 6 times as effective than what was expected, thanks to change management and proper implementation. So this also, as you see, I mean, it all leads to the fact that change is human, and we need to consider that it's not just a fact, and it's not just a factual change that is happening. It's not just the implementation of a new system. We have to think about supporting employees and helping them through the change, supporting them in the process and dealings with the fear, uncertainties, concerns, and everything. So if we go back in history, you have from John Kotter. He was he's somehow known a bit as the father for the roadmap for successful change, where you have him creating the 8-step model. And in the 8-step model, just to very briefly go through it, because a lot of other models are also based and built and inspired from this, is that you first have to create a sense of urgency. You have to make the need for change clear for people to buy into it and get them out of their comfort zone. Then you have to build a coalition where there's a huge level of trust and where you have shared goals. And after that, you have to create a vision and this desired future state that people want to move forward to. It has to be appetizing for people. And this you have to communicate and really walk the talk and help people through it. And you have to empower and enable people to move and act on the vision, give them participation methods and initiatives to keep going. Then you have to be sure that you generate short-term successes that are valuable, where people can see that it's worth the effort in hard times as well. And then afterwards, you have to continue to consolidate the gains, and you have to keep the momentum up and create new plans and new changes so that people, they are triggered by this action plan to keep going. And then, of course, everything that has been put into place has to be anchored and really into the procedures and the operations, and it needs to be continuously improved. Why then it's kind of a circle, because there might lead to another change. If we look at different levels of change, there are as such 5 main. This is the implication of people, the involvement that you have to ensure for the commitment to happen, so that employees and stakeholders in general, they commit to help with the change, and they allow the adjustments and they give feedback on it. Then communication is super important. We'll dig a bit deeper into it afterwards, and that is because it really provides the substance for the change. It provides the meaning. It gives support, and it reduces the uncertainty and the limit, and it limits the risk for misinterpretation or gossips in the corner about what is happening. Documentation is super important in order to describe new operating principles, but it's also important to formalize the good practices and help the users by giving them support material to work and move forward in the new ways of doing things. Then training is even more important because this is something that you really have to help to facilitate this adaptation of employees and to reduce the resistance and the difficulties that they might encounter when they are learning something new and having to, for example, use a new system or getting used to a new culture or whatever it is, new location. Coaching is another thing that is super important because it helps to maintain the momentum, and it helps to accompany the stakeholders and the employees through the change. And it also helps them to stay committed and engaged and motivated to go through it. So this is important. If we go a bit deeper into the communication, I would like to just mention this particularly because it's really important from the beginning throughout the project until the end. because if change is just a concept that is kind of high flying for them, then it will not be anchored and they will not understand it. They will not move forward with it. It has to become anchored in their reality. So communication really serves to build and this familiarity. It helps to help the stakeholders to get familiar with the project, and also it helps to translate all the objectives and goals that are connected to the project. Also, some change is very gradual for individuals, so therefore they have to get used to this idea why the communication throughout the project is very important in order to get to terms with the reality of the change. So this is really important, and communication should therefore have 3 main objectives. It should be informative and help everyone to be informed of what is happening and make people aware of the change all the time. Then it should help people to understand. It should help people to get them to accept the change and know the aim of it. Contribution is really in terms of getting them to commit and be active contributors. So they have to get people to act through the communication, get them involved. And if all those 3 objectives are aligned, then it will move into this strong involvement and commitment by everyone in order to get the change project to become a success. So this is really something that is important to continue communicating all the time. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, this is a lot of soft skills. It's a lot of just a human thing. How can we measure this? And it's true, it's not easy to measure, but you can actually measure change. There is an AmCham barometer, and it's all made around surveys of 4 different pillars, namely the information, which is what is changing, so the quality of the communication lever, you could actually say. Then you have all that is comprehension, so the understanding, why are we changing? Why is this changing? Is it necessary? This is then of course linked to training, and it's linked to communication and actions around the change. Then you have the adhesion, that is the adherence to the new tools, new working methods. That is a result of communication and the training and all the actions put into place, and the understanding of those. And then the participation, the buy-in of the people, and the implementation of the change, to see, are they actually supporting the actions that are proposed? Are they participating actively and continuing to support the project? So those are really 4 areas that you can measure through surveys and discussions and kind of taking the temperature. So with this in mind, I'm just wondering, because those are 3 pillars, who do you think would be the key players in a change management project? Maybe you can either unmute yourself if someone dares to say something this time, or you can write it in the chat so that Orly or Jane, you can have a look. Who would be the key players in a change project?
Everyone in the company.
Everyone in the well, that's very true. I mean, everyone is involved. The key players, yeah, sponsor people, general people in the company. Okay.
Internal communication.
Communication, yes. Okay. Is there another one coming up? Otherwise, we will.
Human resource management.
Yeah, very true. Thank you. So I think you're getting this grasp of it. So if we go to the key players in change management, who are they? Well, you can actually say that there are kind of 4 different groups. And that is that you have to have a change team that is there to steer the change. They're there to make the strategic decisions around the change, to understand and make the necessary trade-offs, and also to ensure that there's a strategic alignment in the project. Then you have project managers and the project team. They are there to really manage the change. They're there to design and implement it and deliver project deliverables, and also preparing users for the change. Then you have the local managers and human resources communications, as you have already mentioned. They're really there to support, it's the support function, to support in communicating, in implementing, and also monitoring the change within the teams. And then you have change ambassadors. Their role is really to make sure that the change is understood, and that the project is understood, and also that all the important points are coming through to the people. So with this in mind, it is very complex, but it's very, very much built around the employees and other stakeholders within a company. But the question is, can change management be learned? For this, we will now have a chat with Aurélie, because you're the project manager of ChangeX, which is an e-learning platform. And you're also certified by PROSCI. That is also a method, change management method, that is, let's say, a bit more modern than the one that we just saw by Kotter. Can you maybe walk us through the main points to consider by PROSCI, and also give us an example?
So yes, PROSCI methodology is based on 5 steps to successful change. So it's AdCAR. AdCAR is for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. According to PROSCI, every single person in your organization should go through those 5 steps to ensure that the change is a success. But everyone will pass these 5 steps at their own pace. So first of all is the awareness. So the awareness of the need to change, like Lena told you as from Kotter, they need to understand why are we changing? Why are we going to do this project? Then it's desire. I have decided to change. So they desire to change comportment, to change, to embrace the change. Then it's the knowledge how to share or how to change. So I know what will change and how I need to do to change. The 4th step is ability. So I am able to change. It's more in terms of competencies. Do I have the competencies to change? And then it's reinforcement. I will continue to use the new method, to use the new tools, and not go back into the previous one. Let's just take an example. So it's an example that you can find in nearly every hotel now. So save our planet. Dear guests, every day millions of gallons of water are used to wash towels that have only been used once. You make the choice. A towel on the rack means I will use again. A towel on the floor means please replace. Thank you for helping us conserve the Earth's vital resource. So you have the nature of change. It's why the change is needed. So to save our planet and to avoid wasting water. Then you have the desire, the personal decision. You make the choice. I decide to change. And you have the knowing how to change. So the key from AdCAR. Either you put your towel on the rack or on the floor. The ability, it's not really there in the example, but I mean, everybody is able to either put the towel on the rack or on the floor. And then you have the gratitude to make it stick. So that's an example of the AdCAR and how all the phases are done.
That seems very useful. So considering all those theories, we can assume that it's nothing to do with magic and that it can be learned. So to which extent is it possible, and how can it become easier? How can we help?
Indeed, it really has nothing to do with magic. If you stick to a methodology, change becomes easier to manage. But to be honest, it's mainly the experience that makes change management easier.
So we have ChangeX that became a reality, which is this e-learning platform that is built based on experience and motivation from MindForest. Can you maybe explain it a bit? Why did it become a reality? What's the motivation?
At MindForest, we have more than 20 years of experience, and more top management becomes aware that managing the people of change is important. One interesting question to ask is, how successful will be your project if your collaborators don't change? And the more your project is people dependent, the more you need change management. So frequently our clients want to deal with change management internally. It's more and more the case. So based on our 20 years of experience, we developed our own methodology in 5 steps. We began to share it with our clients, explain it to them, train them, share our practical experience in the field, what works, what doesn't. So they have the methodology at their disposal, as well as our tools and methods, which they can use immediately in their project. So for us, it was natural to keep going with the e-learning platform so that we can make the change management accessible to more and more people.
To everyone. So that sounds really promising, Aurélie. What are the advantages of ChangeX compared to traditional change management programs? Can you give us a demo of it or examples?
The advantage of the platform is that you can learn anywhere, anytime. No need to be off during 3 to 5 days. You can learn at your own pace. For the moment, so here you are on the platform when you log in. And for the moment, we have 2 courses. So you click on start and you have 2 courses. We have Introduction to Change Management. It's mainly why change management is needed, what is change management, and what are the key levers to change management. It's really an introduction so that you have the basis for the change management methodology. So it's our methodology that we create with all the experience we have. So it's a methodology in 5 steps. So you have formulating the change at first, then planning the change, implementing the change, measuring and anchoring the change, and then closing the change. So as I mentioned, you can learn it anywhere, anytime. Each course is divided in lesson. So you have here, for example, the 78 lessons we have, and it's quite short lessons. So you can either learn, I don't know, 5 to 10 lessons a day. If you have 15 minutes, you can do some lessons, or you can do it all at once. It's really you who decides. We also have a variety of media. So here you have like a little infographic, but every phases begin with an introduction, and then you have a quick video. So here it's I can just show you. I hope you will see that. So for example, formulating the change.
This initial phase, formulating the change, is essential in order to define why there is a need for change. To start with, you'll need to set up the project management structures for the change. The project sponsor will align all the stakeholders to the project. The steering committee comprises several members. This is where all strategic decisions are taken. It also ensures that the project runs smoothly. The change management team is in charge of conducting all concrete transformation measures in the field. Then it will create a framework for the change.
I won't let all the video, but you have seen the.
To get the idea of it.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Lina. So you have a video, but you also have interactive activity. So for example, here you have a drag and drop exercise. You also have quizzes at the end of each phases to be sure that that you understand what you have learned. So our aim was really to make the learner active. So not just being passive when learning the change. And for me, who followed a classic training course, the limit of the training market in change for the moment is that it's really theoretical and not practical. So I wanted to avoid that. So one more advantage is that you have also tools and methods with our support card. So for example, so here you have setting up the steering committee. So you have at the end of nearly each lesson, you have a resource and template. So it can either be an Excel file. I will show you this one. So the sponsor map. Here, so you have a template that you can use directly. Every single support card or template or whatever tools we provide to you, you always have an introduction, the objective of the tools, and important points to remember, some advice. So that's really tip and tricks that are coming from our experience. So then you have something to fill in. So for example, here you have for the sponsor map, the aim is to identify the sponsor and to see how they are supporting the change. So you put the name. For example, I will say a sponsor. Then you need to evaluate their influence in the organization and the support for the project. So she supports our project, she has influences, and then you have the sponsor map in place. And you have here what you are going to do with the sponsor. So with a strong influence and supporting the project, you will be able to count on the support of such a sponsor, and you need to use this sponsor for the success of your change. So that's an example of the sponsor. You have also all the tools here, we group it in one place. And we also wanted to develop a community so that people don't feel alone in the process. Usually when you are doing an e-learning, if you have questions, you don't know what to do. So here we have a community where you can ask a question about the course, but also use the experience of other people in the course if you have a problem or a question regarding your own project. So it's really an advantage that we wanted to create. So yeah, it's really a little view of what the platform is. So if you want a more detailed presentation, feel free to contact us. We can provide you that.
So I know that that there is an offering, and how can we get more information? What are the next steps? Are there any advantages now where we are participating in this webinar, maybe?
So we have 3 packages, four in fact. The first one is the free trial, where you have partial access to the platform. It's really a limited access, so you don't have access to everything. It's just to have a look and see if it's what you need when you need to learn change management. Then we have the basic level, where you have access to the course, the basic support cards and template, as well as the community. Then you have the standard level, where you have, in addition, a more advanced template, and also 2-hour tutoring mentoring with one of our experts. So during 2 hours, you can either ask questions if you don't understand something on the course, or if you want advice on your own project to apply this methodology to your own project. It's included in the standard package. And in the premium, it's you have access to everything: advanced support card, advanced template, and you have 10 hours of tutoring. So that's really interesting. If you really want to try to use this methodology in your project, you are really accompanied in the process.
That's exciting.
Yes. We also have a special package for large companies. If you want more than one license, you need to contact us. If you want a floating license, we have really a different package. If you are a training organization, consultants, feel free to contact us and we can discuss our special package. And if you like to subscribe, we have a special offer for the people who are participating to this webinar. So you have a 10% discount with the code AmCham, and it's valid until end of November. So you just need to log in on ChangeX.center, and you can also follow us on social media, or communication or internal communication would be very, very happy if you could join us.
So if we sign up, what's going to happen? Now it's live. What are the ideas for the future development?
We have a lot of ideas to improve and developing the platform. So the first was to pass multilingual. So the English version is now live. Yeah, we begin with the French one. We will have podcasts about change that will be launched before the end of the year. We will have new content, like a course on psychosocial risk, as well as some module dedicated to, for example, move projects, and also on engagement projects, how to increase your collaborators' engagement. The content will also become more interactive. For example, the template that I show you in Excel, you will be available online, and you will be able to directly complete this on the platform. So it's really just the beginning, I would say.
That's fantastic. I have to say, I mean, I've tried it out myself several times in the process, and I'm working with it. So it's quite challenging to get through, and I know there's a certification as well. So I think it's very useful. Thank you so much for this demo and all the information, Ollie, and please do, I mean, 10% discounts. Then we'll just say thank you so much for participating, and if you should have any questions or any interest, please do not hesitate to contact us at MindForest. We'd be very happy to discuss with you.